Hey everyone, in this video we'll be looking at AP Calculus IROC versus AROC. Now in your classes you may hear these two terms being tossed around. IROC refers to instantaneous rate of change, and AROC stands for average rate of change. Now, what does instantaneous rate of change mean? That's just a fancy word for slope. And what's another word for slope? Derivative. Our derivative is the slope. Now, what is the average rate of change? That's like your slope over the entire interval. Now, this may sound like the two of the same thing, but really what you're doing here is you're finding your derivative, because we're in calculus now, and average rate of change. What you're doing is you're going back to algebra 1, and you're going y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Now, we will always love an average rate of change question because it's much easier. But the instantaneous rate of change, remember, is just the derivative, so don't be freaked out if you see that on your test. So, now that you've got that out of the way, we'll look at some average rate of change versus instantaneous rate of change practice problems. So, alright, so I've just drawn out this little practice problem. So we're just looking at this graph here, and it asks for the instantaneous rate of change at x equals -2. What is that? So instantaneous rate of change is, as it says in the name, instantaneous. Exactly the slope of at the given point. So in average rate of change, we would look over this entire -3 to 3 interval, but really we're only looking at -2. Just at that point, we're looking at the slope. And what's the slope here? We are on a relatively flat line, right? That's a pretty flat line. And what is the slope of a flat line? That is about 0. Because that's IROC. AROC, you would have to do, like, in this case, it would be it would just be like the change from here. Oops. It would be the change from here to here. So it would be the whole thing, right? Now, I'm going to erase all this. So look at another more specific number-based question. Alright, so here's another question. Find the average rate of change for f of x equals x squared over the interval -2 to 3. Now, we are given an interval. So remember, AROC is over the entire interval. Now, we have the interval, but we're not given, remember, AROC is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. We're not given any y points, except we're given the function. So what we have to do is, how would we find the y points? What is y f of x? You would take this, you have to plug this in for x to find your y values. So we would get f of, let's say, -2 is equal to -2 squared is equal to 4. And then f of 3 is equal to 3 squared, which is 9. So now your two y values are right here. Now, what do we do with this? We take this, plug it back into our beautiful AROC equation over here. So we get y2 minus y1. We'll start with 9 as our y2, minus y1 is 4. And the corresponding x2 would be 3 minus 2 is equal to 9 minus 4 over 3 plus 2 is equal to 5 by 5 is equal to 1. That's our final answer. So I hope you guys got a good understanding of IROC versus AROC. So just remember that IROC is instantaneous rate of change, so it's a slope at that moment, and the AROC is the average rate of change over the entire course of the interval. So tune in next time for any more AP Calculus videos.